Yes, very welcome to Achievers Meeting Point channel. Once again, this is Mukonyezi Roger, and I'm here to take you through cost volume profit analysis that is under cost and management accounting. So we are starting with cost volume profit analysis, how to get an idea about it, what it means, and what it's all about. So first of all, for cost volume profit analysis, it looks at how you are going to balance the three activities: the cost, the volume, and the profits. So you're looking at how you're getting your costs, how you're using your costs to produce a given range of volume of products. And then from those volume of products, how do you get a profit? Now it looks at the relationship between these three products, the cost, volume, and the profit. You're going to analyze how each area affects the other. And the major objective now of doing cost, volume, profit analysis, your major objective is what will happen to our financial statement, to our financial results, in case a level of activity or volume fluctuates, or case it increases or decreases. What will happen to the profits? What will happen to the costs in case a level of volume decreases? So majorly, let's start to look at cost volume profit analysis, and we're going to look at cost volume profit analysis, what we abbreviate as CVPA, for a single unit and for multi products. It's going to have some quite difference, but we'll go look about it maybe in a later video. So maybe let's start with cost volume profit analysis. And cost volume profit analysis now, it helps you as a manager. Remember, you're going to become cost managers. So it's going to help you now to establish the minimum level of sales required to avoid losses. Remember that under the cost volume profit analysis, we're going to use the break-even point, whereby the marginal revenues equals marginal costs. At that point, you're not receiving any costs, you're not incurring any losses. So you're going to look at it, will help you to determine which minimum level of sales can you make in order to avoid losses. Then, which sales level is required to achieve a target of desired profits. If you want, you have your profits, your desired profits that you have, then which desired level of sales would you make in order to achieve such a profit? So now we're back. We're looking at how cost volume profit analysis can be analyzed. So to analyze cost volume profit analysis, we can use the two methods, where I have the economist model and the accountant's model. So, and the economist model, we'll look at how the economists, for them, how they take on their cost volume profit analysis. So we are looking at that graph of how they analyze their costs and the volume and the profit. So on the x-axis, we're having the quantity, and on the y-axis we have the cost and revenue. So for instance, if you can see that our fixed costs, they're always fixed. That's a line which is the fixed cost. But then we have our total costs, which start rising from point A to B. But from point A to B, they make a slight decrease to point E, and after that they continuously increase. So this means that if you're producing the quantity using those fixed costs and losses, you're going to have a perpetual increase in the total revenues from point 0 to point T. But from point 0 to point B, I've been making losses. So from point 0 to point B, those are losses. But from point B to point B is break-even point 1. So to break-even point 1, you're making losses. Then from break-even point 1 to break-even point 2, you'll be making profits. And thereafter, you go back to making losses. So let's go into understanding why this one happens. So this one is happening why? So remember that you're just starting up. So from point A to B, from point 0 to B, you're just starting up. So a company or a product, when it's just starting up, it is in its initial stages. It experiences a wide range of fixed costs and variable costs. It extends the wide range of fixed costs, and whenever you combine it with the variable cost, it gives you a high range of total costs. And yet, what you're producing is not able, or what you're selling is not able to cover up for those costs which are being incurred. So that's why you see from point A to point B, the total revenue curve is below the fixed and the total fixed and the total costs. So hence making it to make losses. But then from point B to break even point 2, the farm now gets used to it. So from point B to break even point 2, we are seeing that our revenues increases but reaches a point T and then starts decreasing. So from point T, first of all, remember now the farm is used up, has been able to take over, to enjoy the economies of scale. It is producing large quantities, it can cover up for the fixed cost. That's why you can say it is making profits in that case. But from point B to point T, that's when a farm starts earning profits. But beyond point T, a farm cannot sell its products until it starts cutting off the price. So the farm starts to reduce the prices. Remember, at that point, competitors have come in, different people have looked at your product, now they're tired of it. So now the farm must start reducing the price. So on reducing the price, your revenues will start decreasing. But remember, the costs are not decreasing. So the costs could be increasing by the same with a lot of depreciations, the machines are wearing. So you find that the cost starts again increasing, whereas your revenues are increasing. So you go back into a stage for making losses. Yeah. So that's under the economics model. For them, they think that at the earlier stages, you're going to make your losses as you're producing low quantity. You start producing high quantity, you make a big profits. But then a later stage, at the last stage, you may go back to making losses. That's under the economics model. So I want us to look at the account. Now let's look at the accountants model. So for the accountants model, it's a quite different one from the economics model. First of all, for them, they assume that the revenues will rise perpetually without decreasing. It will be a perpetual increase. For them, they also assume that the profits, total cost will always rise perpetually. So for them, they have that instance of profits rising perpetually, revenues increasing perpetually, and cost rising perpetually. So in this case, now we introduce the point of the angle of incidence. We're going to look about the point of the angle of incidence. So for them, they use the angle of incidence. Whether when it is too big, that means you're earning a lot of profits, and when it is too less, you're earning less profits. But now the accountant's model does not operate without its assumptions. So it has a given range of assumptions that must be in place for it to operate. So let's look at those assumptions, then we can have an understanding of the accountant. So the first point is that for the accountant, they assume that the total costs and total revenues are linear functions. I've already explained it under the graph. The total revenues and total costs, they're rising perpetually. So for them, they assume that the total revenues and total costs will always be fixed and always do not change as output increases. So it rises perpetually throughout. That is the under meaning that it is going to be a linear function. It will not change, always will be a linear function. Then the first assume that it's only a single product that is going to be produced. And if it's not a single product, it's going to be a constant sales mix. We'll talk about a constant sales mix, that if you're producing more than one product, you're going to be producing only, if for example, you're producing rice, you're going to be producing rice 6 kgs, posho 5 kgs, always, that it will not change. So they assume that there's a single product being produced always, or a constant sales mix assumption. Then they first assume that production and sales are synchronized, meaning that whatever we produce is always sold off. We are not having any closing stock, we're not having any opening stock. They assume that the company will not have any opening stock, will not have any closing stock. It's the first assume that there is a constant efficiency and productivity levels, that the methods and technology you're using in production to make it efficiently, that it must remain constant. The levels of production, the levels of technology are not changing, the methods are not changing. But in real case, it's not actual. They also further assume that the only factor that influences the total costs and total revenues is only volume of output. So we have looked at that, those assumptions, and for the accountant's model, it does not operate with those assumptions in place. But in real sense, sometimes they may bring you a question giving you to analyze the limitations of the accountant's model. So you can see most of those assumptions are not applicable. For example, that constant efficiency and production levels, that levels of technology will remain constant. We are in a changing environment, and technology is changing each and every day. So the levels of technology will not always remain constant. For example, looking at products and sales are synchronized. No company will ever produce a given product and sell the whole of it. So it's difficult. Most companies will have opening stock, will have closing stock. Yeah. So I had promised to look at the point of angle of incidence. So I talked about the point of angle of incidence. So the point of angle of incidence in our graph, which you are looking at the graph, it looks at that angle of incidence. It looks at the angle at which the revenue line cuts the total cost line. So if the angle is large, it indicates that the profits are being made at a high rate. Are you getting me? But in case the angle of incidence is small, meaning we are making profit but at a low rate, and we are passing through less favorable conditions to make that profits. Yeah. So majorly that's under the cost, under break-even point analysis, the break-even point analysis method of analyzing cost volume profit analysis. So under break-even point, that's why you have the accountant's model and the economist's model. So in another video, we're going to look at the algebraic method. The algebraic method, how we'll use different formulas to analyze the cost volume profit analysis, which is normally set. So look for that video. We meet there in that video. Thanks.